Good Tuesday afternoon to you. I'm Julie Grant, and we sure hope you enjoyed your true crime at lunchtime. Right now, testimony is underway in the Phony funeral home trial happening in Ohio. Defendant Shante Harden facing a range of criminal charges in different places, too, in Toledo, Columbus, Akron. And the charges here in this case in Toledo include abuse of a corpse, operating a funeral director and funeral business without a license, among others. He's got 30-plus charges on 2 merged indictments being heard in this one consolidated case before the judge. Now, the state says that Harden mistreated the bodies that he was trusted to handle, while the defense claims that Harden was only trying to help low-income families have a proper funeral for their loved ones. They're defending him on innocence grounds on this one, saying he did nothing wrong. The state's been calling several witnesses today who are involved in the funeral home business and were associated with some of the bodies in question in this case. Before we go back to the courtroom, we want to take you outside of the courthouse, where we find Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae standing by to give us all the latest details happening on the trial. Julia, good afternoon to you. If you would please kind of cut through some of the clutter for us kindly with the issue of Shante Harden being licensed. We're hearing a lot about this. What have you learned about why he wasn't licensed to do this work, please?
Julie, it's not for lack of trying. Shante Harden did apply to get his license with the state board here in Ohio, and it was denied because he didn't finish school. He didn't have a degree from a mortuary school. He also did not fill out that paperwork properly. That's the initial reason that they sent it back to him and ultimately denied it. That was back in 2014. But we're hearing so much about his license because that is what the state is using these witnesses who have been on the stand today, those with the cemetery, those with licensed funeral homes, are confirming that he was holding himself out to be a funeral director, and in the state you have to have a license to do so. Now, looking at some of his advertisement, we've been able to get a copy of not only his Facebook page, but a former website. So looking at the Facebook page, he says that he's a certified funeral service professional. That services word, though, is the distinction the defense wants to say doesn't suggest he's a funeral director. He also had a website. It's now defunct, but we were able to pull it up in the archives. It was the URL for that was hardenfuneralservices.com, and on it, it tells loved ones or people when they are dealing with the loss of a relative that they can contact Harden Funeral Services and they will help them with that time of need. But that word, services versus director, we're hearing it over and over inside of the courtroom.
There's little distinctions, Julia. Yeah, really key to this case, what was legal, what was illegal. Talk to us, please, about the mortuary technician. She took the stand this morning, shared with the court some intel about Shante Harden and how he's perceived in the funeral home community.
Right. Well, what I most noticed about Dion Fortress's testimony, she was someone who talked about noticing an issue with one of the bodies. That's why the prosecution called her to the stand, because she was familiar with one of the bodies that was transported from where she worked to another place, and she was called about it. But on cross-examination, the defense attorney, Rick Herger, he pointed out that there were rumors about his client that really were labeling him as an outsider of what he's trying to show the judge was this community that didn't think Harden belonged. Take a listen.
In talking with Mr. Wood about Leo Hall, you said it looks sketchy. What did you mean by that?
There was a rumor going around that they didn't have an established location to take individuals.
And where was this rumor going around?
With all the funeral directors in the area. We used to talk about it at our Ohio Embalmers Association meetings.
You would get together with the funeral directors from the Toledo area?
Yes, we would have dinner on Mondays, I believe it was, to get our continuing education credits, and occasionally this situation was brought up.
You had a relationship with them?
The other directors?
Yeah.
Yes, I am a licensed funeral director and embalmer in Michigan and Ohio.
Mr. Harden was a newcomer, an outsider.
Yes.
He didn't go to those dinners.
No.
Viewed with some suspicion, is that fair?
Unfortunately, yes.
By all of them, even though they may not know anything.
Yes.
And you shared in that suspicion before you ever encountered Mr. Harden.
I think I did.
They told you to watch out for him. He's
Yes.
shady.
Yes.
The defense attorney there suggesting there's some elitism that goes on in the funeral home business in the state. Harden has said previously, before actually being on trial today, that he feels he was targeted by these counts. But there was another major point that the defense made when he was cross-examining this witness. It had to do with the law and where and how bodies can be stored. It's something he mentioned in his opening statement, and this mortuary technician confirmed it.
In your view, Mr. Harden, not being a licensed funeral director, if he wanted to, he could pick a body up with the appropriate release form from your office, put the body out in the parking lot on the tarmac,
If he wanted to, yes.
and not violate the law.
I don't think so.
You have someone there who is in this business, who is licensed, who is a mortuary technician, saying that a body could be in that place, Julie. So that may have been a scored point for this defense in front of the judge.
Most definitely. Appreciate you pointing that out. Julia Janae live for us there in Toledo, Ohio. Thank you for your reporting, Julia.